Monica decided to go on a solo vacation to Brazil. She was strolling along a deserted beach when some magical sea creature caught her by surprise. It took her to a cave at the bottom of the ocean, took all her stuff, and left her there. To escape, she had to go through one of 3 tunnels. The first tunnel had sharks swimming all over it. The second tunnel had poisonous underwater snakes. And the third tunnel had a pirate shipwreck. Which tunnel should she choose to go through? She should pick the third tunnel. Sure, it's a pirate ship, but it's already sunk and it won't pose any real threats. Anna decided to throw a costume party and invited all her friends. 2 couples decided to dress up as vampires, but one of these couples is made of real vampires. Take a look at the image. Can you tell me which one? It's the second couple. They are vampires. They don't have any reflection in the mirror, do they? On a murky water day, Jason woke up confused. He had bumped his head into a coral reef and woke up in another underwater kingdom. 3 mermaids took him in and helped him get better. When he finally opened his eyes and asked who they were, they all said they were his wife. Take a look at the image. Can you tell which mermaid is telling the truth? If you look closely, the third mermaid to the right is wearing a shellfish ring similar to the one that Jason is wearing. This must mean she's his real wife, and the other 2 mermaids were lying. In the Wizardry School of Ninth, students are getting ready for a philosophy test. They're pretty good at doing magic, but they haven't developed their theoretical skills too much. The teacher, Mrs. Woodland, prepared a relatively easy first question for them. It asked, what is the phrase that makes you happy when you're sad and sad when you're happy? The correct answer is, it will be over soon. Yikes! On the same day of that test, Mandeline had a potion test. She was extremely nervous since she could never get the very difficult spells correctly. She got to the classroom and the teacher had left a few potion bottles for her to label. Take a look at the bottles and the tags. Can you tell which bottle is which? Our first clue lies in the bottles themselves. The first bottle is for the freezing potion. It freezes anything it gets into contact with. The second bottle carries a potion for making people stronger. The third bottle makes people feel sick. Ew! The fourth bottle is the one for finding eternal love. And the last bottle with the frog is for turning frogs into princes. I quite like these potions. On Amy's graduation day, her mother introduced her to a few eligible bachelors. She really wanted her daughter to find a new love, since she had recently broken up with her college sweetheart. She talked with the guys who all said they were training to be airplane pilots, but she figured out one of them was lying. How could she tell? Take a look at the first guy. He's wearing glasses, which means he can't be a pilot. Pilots need to have perfect eyesight. James, a father of 4, went to work, leaving a $50 bill on the kitchen table for his oldest daughter, Quinn, to go shopping. When he got home, there was no food. Quinn said she hadn't been able to go shopping because he hadn't left any money. James asked his other 3 kids to come down and question them. Beverly said she saw the money on the table but didn't touch it. Kenneth said she opened the window and put the money under the book so it wouldn't fly away. Owen said he'd put the bill inside the book between pages 57 and 58. Can you tell who's lying? Owen is lying. He couldn't put the money between pages 57 and 58 because they're the 2 sides of the same page. Cindy was playing with her time machine when she opened a portal to another dimension. The portal took her to a sorcerer's house in the middle of nowhere. The sorcerer was so powerful that she closed Cindy's portal and Cindy was stuck there. The sorcerer proposed that they play a game. She said she had 2 cards in her hand. one that said free and another that said stay. Cindy could pick only one card. If she got the one with free written on it, she'd go back home. But if she picked the one with the word stay, she'd stay forever. But the sorcerer was such a trickster that she changed both cards to stay. Even so, Cindy managed to be freed by the sorcerer, beating her at her own game. How did she do it? Cindy anticipated what the sorcerer would do, so as soon as she picked the first card, she threw it in the fire, saying it was by mistake. That way, the sorcerer would have to show her the remaining card was stay, which meant that the one she had burnt had to be the card with free written on it. Way to go, Cindy! After Colton was shipwrecked, he found himself on a deserted island. Luckily, he still had his pills with him. There are 2 blue pills and 2 red ones. He needs to take 1 red pill and 1 blue pill, but his eyesight was severely compromised after the wreck, so he can't tell them both apart. There's nobody around to help him. How can he manage it? Colton should break each of the 4 pills into half and eat 4 halves of each. This way, he'll take exactly 1 red and 1 blue. Last week, Sophia attended the town's much-anticipated masquerade ball. She chose to show off her mother's vintage diamond necklace. But during the event, she noticed her necklace was gone. She called a private investigator immediately and asked him to bring her diamond necklace back, whatever it cost her. Very quickly, the investigator gathered 3 suspects. Kate, the one with the blue mask, says she spent most of the evening in the garden. Bianca, wearing the green mask, insists she was in the bathroom when the theft occurred. Jake, with the silver mask, says that he only noticed Sophia's necklace was missing after he came back from the bar. The investigator immediately knew who was lying and recovered the diamond necklace. Can you figure it out too? How did Jake know the exact moment the necklace went missing? It must have been him. Plus, take a look at his pocket. It looks like there's some triangular-shaped object in there, doesn't it? Luke was an adventurer, and on his latest trip, he went to Vietnam. There, he came across an ancient treasure map. The map led him to a remote island where a legendary treasure was said to be hidden. But the treasure's location was protected by a series of cryptic symbols. He needed to find it to unlock the treasure. Take a look at the encoded message that appeared and help Luke figure out a pattern that will take him to the treasure. The message said, "Carrot, sun, astronaut, filled, you, room." This wasn't so tricky, huh? The key to answering this one is noticing the pattern. The letters in capitals are the ones that make up the password. So, the correct password is Ray. The other words are just there to confuse you. Way to go, Luke! One of these girls has a pet at home. Can you tell me which one? It's the one in the middle. She's got scratches all over her arm. One day, Emma went to her best friend Taylor's house crying. When Taylor asked what was wrong, Emma showed her the photo her boyfriend Andrew sent her from his solo hiking trip and yelled, "He's cheating on me!" Take a look at the image and tell me, how did she know? In the first photo from the kitchen of his Airbnb, there's a glass on the table with a lipstick mark. And in the second photo from the bathroom, see these slippers in front of the bathtub? These are slippers only a woman can wear. The local movie theater was doing a special Valentine's Day rom-com movie marathon, and they were doing a discount on the tickets for couples. However, the theater owner realized people were taking advantage of the offer by pretending to be couples. Take a look at these 3 couples standing in front of the ticket line. Can you help the owner figure out which two people are indeed partners? The second couple might not be holding hands and looking couple-like the others. But take a look at their ankles. They have tiny matching tattoos. They must indeed be committed partners. Now, take a look at these people watching a movie in another movie theater. There is only one real couple here. Can you tell who? Everyone's hands are everywhere, right? But if you look carefully, you'll see that this guy is not holding hands with anyone. He's just stealing popcorn from the lady sitting next to him. And this lady is trying to grab this guy's drink. See these people sitting on the right end of the front row? They might be sitting close to each other, but the guy is holding hands with this other lady. So they must be the real couple. Sarah has a crush on several guys at her college. One of them might be her soulmate. But first, she has to find out if they're single. There are some photos of them with their partners or siblings, and she needs to guess who is who. Can you help her figure out the single guys? Look at the first photo. Crush number 1, James, is hugging two girls tightly. The first girl has the same birthmark on her cheek as he does, so they might be siblings. The second girl is wearing a matching outfit, and she's holding his hand, so she is his girlfriend. Now, let's investigate the second photo. Crush number 2, Reggie might look like he's hugging this girl, but he's holding his hands in the air, not touching her body. This indicates they're not in a romantic relationship. The second girl is hugging him, but she's holding another guy's hand who is not in the photo. That means she has a boyfriend and Reggie is single. And lastly, Daniel, crush number 3 in the last image, is hugging a girl, but they both have friendship bracelets, so they're best friends. The second girl in the image looks grumpy. Daniel is pinching her cheek, which can only mean they must be siblings. It seems that Daniel is single as well. Ken is going on a blind date, but the only thing he knows about the girl whom she will meet is that she will be wearing a scarf with stripes. When he arrives at the restaurant they agreed to meet at, he sees 3 different ladies, all wearing scarves with stripes. Can you help him find out who his blind date is? The lady in the yellow dress already ordered her food and started eating. That means she wasn't going to meet anyone. The same goes for the lady in the red dress as well. It would be rude of her to enjoy tea if she was expecting anyone to join her. So, Ken's date must be the lady in the blue dress, waiting with 2 empty cups in front of her. Ella is waiting for her date. Take a look at these 3 guys across the street. Can you tell who her date is? Ella is holding a bucket of popcorn, so she must have a movie date. Now, take a look at the shirt pocket of the first guy. He has 2 movie tickets in there, so he must be the one going on a date with Ella.
Gotcha!
You were chosen as a contestant for the local channel's Valentine's Day themed quiz show. On the day of the show, you successfully made it to the final question. If you answer it correctly, you're going to win the $50,000 prize. The host invites 3 men, Jack, Robert, and Michael, and 3 women, Jane, Carol, and Lily, to the stage. Then he says, "I'm going to give you 3 facts about these people here, and I want you to tell me who the couples are. The first fact is Jane's sister is married to Michael. The second fact is Jack has never met Lily. And the third fact is Lily is an only child. Can you win the grand prize? Jack is married to Jane, Robert to Lily, and Michael to Carol. Sophie received an anonymous letter in her locker that said, "Roses are red, violets are blue. Meet me here tonight if you love me too." The only thing is, she didn't know who it was from because they forgot to sign it. 3 classmates had been near her locker during the lunch break. Can you help her figure out who wrote the note? Take a look at Ethan's hands. They're covered with glitter, which matches the glitter hearts on the letter. So he must be the one who wrote it. Richard wanted to get a special anniversary gift for his wife, Rachel. He decided to check her wish list to pick something from there. The list included the first edition of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, a pearl necklace, and a luxury handbag. Which one should he pick as his gift? Take a look around the room. The first edition of Pride and Prejudice is already among the other books in Rachel's bookcase. The same goes for the pearl necklace. It's right here around the neck of the statue. So, since she already bought the first 2 items, Richard should get the luxury handbag. During her honeymoon, Jenny lost her matching gold wedding ring by the poolside. Her husband, Tristan, thought it was actually stolen and he was suspicious of these 3 people. Can you tell which one stole the ring? The first lady is wearing a wedding ring on a chain around their neck, but it has a diamond on it. And since Jenny's ring needs to match Tristan's ring, which has no diamonds, that's not hers. The second man has several gold rings on his fingers, but none of them can belong to Jenny since they're all too large for her fingers. So, it's the third lady who stole the ring. See the silver-colored spray paint cans on her dress? She tried to disguise Jenny's golden ring by painting it silver, and she didn't even do a good job on that. Keith was working at the Cupid's Arrow booth at the carnival. There were 3 guys who all wanted to try their chances at winning the giant teddy bear prize. Unfortunately, they all took a shot with their arrows once Keith's attention was elsewhere. One arrow did hit the bullseye, but all 3 contestants were claiming it was theirs. Can you help Keith determine the true winner? Take a look at the second guy's backpack on the ground. It says National Archery Team on it. That means he must be the actual archer. So it's likely that he's the real winner. Tom planned a surprise for his girlfriend, Kelly. When she arrived at the address where they were supposed to meet, she saw 3 different stores side by side. A jewelry store, a chocolate shop, and a florist. Where do you think Tom is waiting for her? Take a look at the display window of the chocolate shop. Among the chocolate letters, you can find the word surprise. So that's where Tom is. Audrey lives alone in a condo in Boston. She wakes up in the middle of the night because of the loud music coming from one of her neighbor's apartments. She doesn't know exactly which apartment it comes from. So the next morning, Audrey asks her 3 neighbors what they were doing the night before. Molly says, "I've been playing video games in my headphones all night long, so I didn't hear anything." Peter says, "I was on a plane getting back from Paris. I just returned home a couple of minutes ago after 2 months in France." And Nina says, "I was sleeping after a long shift at work." After hearing their stories, Audrey knows for sure who's a liar. What about you? It's Peter. He said he just returned from France, but look at his table. There are fresh apples lying there. If he had been gone for a month, they would have been rotten by now. Oh. Audrey checked her mailbox. Oh no! Bad news. The building where she rents her apartment is about to be demolished. She has only a week to find a new place and move out. Audrey starts searching online, but unfortunately, she forgot the password for her rental website account. She only remembers that this word is a tasty and sweet fruit that can give you a lot of energy. And you can also find it in your calendar. Can you crack the code? The correct password is date.
Yes!
Audrey logs in and scrolls through a bunch of rental listings. Finally, she finds 3 options. Can you help her choose the best apartment? According to the description, the first apartment was built in 1023. Wow, it must be very ancient. Boston didn't even exist then. It's probably a scam. Take a closer look at the couch in the 3rd apartment. Can you see bed bugs? Ew! These nasty guys are not the best roommates. So, Audrey should pick the 2nd apartment.
Okay.
Audrey books this new apartment, but unfortunately, she doesn't have enough savings to provide the requested deposit. She decides to take part in a game show. The winner will get $50,000. Audrey is doing pretty well, and finally, it's time for the last task. Audrey has to put her head in one of these 3 boxes. There are sparking electrical wires in the first one. There's a Venus flytrap in the 2nd box. It's a carnivorous plant. And there are dozens of venomous scorpions in the 3rd box. Can you help Audrey win the prize and stay safe? Audrey should choose the 2nd box. Venus flytraps aren't dangerous for people, only for flies. Yay! Audrey wins the money. Now it's time to pack her boxes and move. Can you spot 3 emojis among her stuff? Here they are. Audrey goes to her favorite coffee shop to have a break. Let's see if you can find 3 emojis in this location. Hello? Audrey is exploring her new neighborhood. Suddenly, she sees something curious. It always runs, but it never walks. What is it? It's a river. David is Audrey's new neighbor. He agrees to help her move. But first, they need to pick up David's son from college. On their way there, David gets an idea. How about a bet? I'll give you my super expensive carpet if you manage to figure out which student is my son.
Okay.
Audrey agrees. They arrive at the college and see 3 guys waiting at the gates. They all look similar. Can you spot David's son? It's the student on the left. David has the letter L tattooed on his wrist, and the guy is wearing a bracelet with the same letter. Audrey wants to sell her old sofa. She finds 3 potential buyers online. The first one writes, "Hi, I'm Jessica. I'll buy your sofa and remove it tomorrow morning. But first, I'm going to need your phone number and to make sure you're not a scammer." The second one writes, "Hi, I'm Mike. Nice sofa, but the price is a bit higher than I was hoping. Can you make a $100 discount?" And Sheila says, "This sofa is perfect for my studio, but I'm abroad at the moment. Can we postpone the delivery for next week?" Can you help Audrey choose the best buyer? The first buyer introduces herself as Jessica, but her username and picture don't really match. Moreover, it's a bad idea to reveal your phone number to strangers online. As for Mike, his proposal to lower the price is ridiculous because Audrey is selling the sofa for $100 only. Thus, Sheila is the best choice.
Ooh.
The next morning, Audrey wakes up in her new apartment. The boxes are still unpacked, but Audrey wants to brew some coffee. Her coffee machine is in one of these 3 boxes. The note on the first box says that the coffee machine isn't in box 2. The note on the second box says the machine is in box 1 or 3. And the note on the third box says that the coffee machine isn't here. Can you help Audrey choose the right box? If the coffee machine isn't in the second box, it's either in the first or the third box. But the note on box 3 says the machine isn't there, so it must be in the first box. And now Audrey's task is to find one important thing. It has one eye but still cannot see. What is it? It's a needle. Here's what Audrey is looking for now. It's a protector and it sits on a bridge. One individual can see directly through it while others wonder what it hides. What is she looking for? Sunglasses. We meant the nasal bridge. Can you spot 3 emojis in Audrey's kitchen? Here they are. Audrey goes to the laundry room in the basement of the building. She gets lost and comes across 3 doors leading outside the trap. Behind the first door, there's a room full of poisonous bees that could make people lose their mind. Behind the second door, there's a room without oxygen. And there's a room full of unfriendly monsters behind the third door. Which way is more or less safe? The room without oxygen seems the most promising option. Audrey can hold her breath and quickly walk through the room. Audrey is about to leave the basement, but she comes across an anxious neighbor who says, "I just saw a crocodile and it ran into the boiler room." Audrey goes there to check, but nobody's there. How did the croc escape? This way. Audrey returns to her place. She scrolls her feed and sees these 2 photos. One of these ladies is a robot. Can you guess who? This lady on the left has an engine oil canister in the bathroom, but it doesn't prove that she's a robot. Meanwhile, the person in the toilet stall has strange wires in unexpected places, so she's the robot. Audrey goes to the furniture store. There, she sees a group of customers, but it's not that simple. One of them is a werewolf. Can you guess who? It's the third lady. Her claws pierced her gloves. She's transforming into a werewolf. Audrey goes to the local food court and purchases a cup of coffee and a strawberry donut. She leaves a tray with her order on a table and leaves for a moment to tip the waiter. Then she returns to find out that her food is gone. Audrey questions 3 people standing nearby. The cleaner says, "I was about to throw away your tray, but then I noticed that the food was untouched, so I left it alone." The manager says,
"Sorry, miss. It's not my job to guard the tables."
and a customer sitting next to Audrey says, "Ew, gross. I would never touch someone else's food. What if you're sick?" Who's lying? The manager. You can see donut sprinkles on his face. Busted. Take a look at this image for a second. Which prisoner do you think is rich? Let's see. It can't be the first guy since his food is partially rotten. It looks like the other inmates don't really like him, and he doesn't have a lot of power inside the prison. The second guy, while he looks super wealthy, his jewelry is actually fake. This leaves us with the last guy, and bingo, it's him! Look, he's got a laptop under his plate and a phone under his arm. He's the richest for sure. Susie was invited to take part in a pop-up riddle show. She needed to answer one question correctly to win $1,000. She was extremely nervous when the game show host asked her this question.
How many numbers are on a clock?
Can you help Susie figure out this one? The answer looks obvious, but it's not. You need to do some math. The correct answer is 15. It doesn't work if you simply stare at the clock and say there are 12 numbers. You see, the numbers 10, 11, and 12 are made up of smaller numerical numbers, so the correct way to count it would be in a clockwise fashion. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 0, 1, and 1. Phew! A local thief was running around playing tricks on some neighborhood stores. On a Saturday morning, he walked inside Mrs. Buchanan's shop and stole a $100 bill from the counter when she wasn't looking. He grabbed a shopping cart and filled it with $70 worth of goods. He paid for everything with the $100 bill he had stolen and even got $30 back as change. How much money did the store owner lose in all of this? The shop owner just lost $100. I know it sounds too simple, but here's the deal. In total, the store owner lost $70 worth of merchandise, plus the $30 she gave as change. So yes, she lost $100. Maya was roaming through the multiverses when she ran into a gatekeeper guarding a green door. She said she needed to go through the door in order to access her original timeline, but the gatekeeper would only let through those who answered his riddle. He told her that some things can go through the green door while others cannot, and she needed to figure out what all of the things had in common. And then he tells her, "You can come through the door with a carton of eggs, but not with a box of donuts. You can pass through it with a gallon of skim milk, but not a quart of it. You can bring with you some bamboo, but not jade, orchids, philodendron, or ivy. Sadly, you can't come through with dogs and cats unless they're still puppies and kittens." Can you help Maya figure out the pattern in common with all of these things? Well, the key to solving this riddle can be found in all 4 of the words that make up the phrase green glass door, aka double letters. If something is spelled with double letters, it can go through the green glass door. If there are no double letters in its name, then it can't. Mark went to the farmer's market to do his weekly grocery shopping. He stopped by the egg stand, and the owner was feeling chatty, so he challenged Mark to guess the answer to a riddle. He told Mark,
"If I had 4 eggs and a thief gave me 3, and my rooster laid 5 more, how many eggs do I have?"
"Can you help Mark figure out the answer here?" I'll get one thing out of the way. It's not a simple math problem. It doesn't work if you just add everything up. But here's the first problem. Roosters don't lay eggs, so those eggs are out of the equation. And then if you read correctly, the man said, "If I had 4 eggs," which means that he had 0 eggs to begin with. So the correct answer is 3. The 3 eggs that the thief gave him. 4 prisoners from a high-security prison were taken to a deserted beach to do some community service. The warden wanted to have some fun, so he lined them up in a single-file line and separated prisoner A from the other 3 with the help of a brick wall. He gave each prisoner a hat, either black or white, without telling them which color they each got. In total, there were 2 black hats and 2 white hats. He told them that all prisoners would be sentenced to prison for life, except they could guess correctly which color of hat they had in under 10 minutes. The prisoners weren't allowed to confer with each other, and they weren't allowed to move around or change positions. They got super nervous, of course, but they had no other option than to play the game. Luckily, just before the clock struck 10 minutes, one of the prisoners guessed correctly their hat color. Can you guess which prisoner it was? P.S. There is only one correct answer. If you guessed prisoner C, then you got it right. Let's see why. This riddle can only be solved through a process of elimination, and 2 of the prisoners, prisoners A and B, can be eliminated right off the bat. That's because neither one of them can see any of the other prisoners, so neither possesses any information with which to make a more certain guess. That just leaves us prisoners C and D. When prisoner D remains silent and doesn't take a guess, prisoner C deduces his own hair color. He deduces that he and prisoner B must be wearing different colored hats, and since prisoner B was wearing a white hat, he guessed he is wearing a black hat. Yikes! This fried my hat off. Betty was in her last year of high school and she decided to take photography as an extracurricular activity. For her latest assignment, she needed to take an urban picture and present it to the class. However, since Betty was also organizing a big graduation trip, she didn't have time to do the assignment. Instead, she decided to Photoshop an image and show it in class. The teacher and students immediately saw that the picture wasn't real. How could they tell? Well, because that person over there has 2 heads. It looks pretty cool, but that's kind of a difficult phenomenon to find here on this planet. Three people decided to spend their vacations in Antarctica. Bianca had some trouble with the harsh weather, but felt it was worth it in the end. Pablo had a great time photographing the penguins for his social media page. And Helena got to do some fishing while she was there. On the last day of their trip, passing through airport security, one of them got caught trying to take a penguin with them in their backpack. Take a look at the picture. Can you tell who it was? Let's see what we have here. Well, is that a penguin's feet poking out of Helena's backpack? It sure is. Guess she did more than just fishing during her vacation. Yikes! 5th of December is Bloomfield Town's contest day. For this year, the mayor picked bakery as the theme, so contestants needed to bake the best dessert to win. The only rule was that the bakers couldn't use sugar in their recipes, only natural sweeteners. When the mayor went to judge the 4 finalists and pick the best dessert, he immediately disqualified one of the bakers, saying they had cheated. And he did that without even tasting the desserts. Take a look at the contestants and see if you can spot the cheater. Look at the third woman in the row. Her cake is literally covered in powdered sugar. She was disqualified because she broke the no sugar rule. Take a look at this image for a second. Which prisoner do you think is rich? Let's see. It can't be the first guy since his food is partially rotten. It looks like the other inmates don't really like him, and he doesn't have a lot of power inside the prison. The second guy, while he looks super wealthy, his jewelry is actually fake. This leaves us with the last guy, and bingo, it's him! Look, he's got a laptop under his plate and a phone under his arm. He's the richest for sure. Susie was invited to take part in a pop-up riddle show. She needed to answer one question correctly to win $1,000. She was extremely nervous when the game show host asked her this question.
How many numbers are on a clock?
Can you help Susie figure out this one? The answer looks obvious, but it's not. You need to do some math. The correct answer is 15. It doesn't work if you simply stare at the clock and say there are 12 numbers. You see, the numbers 10, 11, and 12 are made up of smaller numerical numbers, so the correct way to count it would be in a clockwise fashion. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 0, 1, and 1. Phew! A local thief was running around playing tricks on some neighborhood stores. On a Saturday morning, he walked inside Mrs. Buchanan's shop and stole a $100 bill from the counter when she wasn't looking. He grabbed a shopping cart and filled it with $70 worth of goods. He paid for everything with the $100 bill he had stolen and even got $30 back as change. How much money did the store owner lose in all of this? The shop owner just lost $100. I know it sounds too simple, but here's the deal. In total, the store owner lost $70 worth of merchandise, plus the $30 she gave as change. So yes, she lost $100. Maya was roaming through the multiverses when she ran into a gatekeeper guarding a green door. She said she needed to go through the door in order to access her original timeline, but the gatekeeper would only let through those who answered his riddle. He told her that some things can go through the green door while others cannot, and she needed to figure out what all of the things had in common. And then he tells her, "You can come through the door with a carton of eggs, but not with a box of donuts. You can pass through it with a gallon of skim milk, but not a quart of it. You can bring with you some bamboo, but not jade, orchids, philodendron, or ivy. Sadly, you can't come through with dogs and cats unless they're still puppies and kittens." Can you help Maya figure out the pattern in common with all of these things? Well, the key to solving this riddle can be found in all 4 of the words that make up the phrase green glass door, aka double letters. If something is spelled with double letters, it can go through the green glass door. If there are no double letters in its name, then it can't. Mark went to the farmer's market to do his weekly grocery shopping. He stopped by the egg stand, and the owner was feeling chatty, so he challenged Mark to guess the answer to a riddle. He told Mark,
If I had 4 eggs and a thief gave me 3, and my rooster laid 5 more, how many eggs do I have?
"Can you help Mark figure out the answer here?" I'll get one thing out of the way. It's not a simple math problem. It doesn't work if you just add everything up. But here's the first problem. Roosters don't lay eggs, so those eggs are out of the equation. And then if you read correctly, the man said, "If I had 4 eggs," which means that he had 0 eggs to begin with. So the correct answer is 3. The 3 eggs that the thief gave him. 4 prisoners from a high-security prison were taken to a deserted beach to do some community service. The warden wanted to have some fun, so he lined them up in a single-file line and separated prisoner A from the other 3 with the help of a brick wall. He gave each prisoner a hat, either black or white, without telling them which color they each got. In total, there were 2 black hats and 2 white hats. He told them that all prisoners would be sentenced to prison for life, except they could guess correctly which color of hat they had in under 10 minutes. The prisoners weren't allowed to confer with each other, and they weren't allowed to move around or change positions. They got super nervous, of course, but they had no other option than to play the game. Luckily, just before the clock struck 10 minutes, one of the prisoners guessed correctly their hat color. Can you guess which prisoner it was? P.S. There is only one correct answer. If you guessed prisoner C, then you got it right. Let's see why. This riddle can only be solved through a process of elimination, and 2 of the prisoners, prisoners A and B, can be eliminated right off the bat. That's because neither one of them can see any of the other prisoners, so neither possesses any information with which to make a more certain guess. That just leaves us prisoners C and D. When prisoner D remains silent and doesn't take a guess, prisoner C deduces his own hair color. He deduces that he and prisoner B must be wearing different colored hats. And since prisoner B was wearing a white hat, he guessed he is wearing a black hat. Yikes! This fried my hat off. Betty was in her last year of high school and she decided to take photography as an extracurricular activity. For her latest assignment, she needed to take an urban picture and present it to the class. However, since Betty was also organizing a big graduation trip, she didn't have time to do the assignment. Instead, she decided to Photoshop an image and show it in class. The teacher and students immediately saw that the picture wasn't real. How could they tell? Well, because that person over there has 2 heads. It looks pretty cool, but that's kind of a difficult phenomenon to find here on this planet. Three people decided to spend their vacations in Antarctica. Bianca had some trouble with the harsh weather, but felt it was worth it in the end. Pablo had a great time photographing the penguins for his social media page. And Helena got to do some fishing while she was there. On the last day of their trip, passing through airport security, one of them got caught trying to take a penguin with them in their backpack. Take a look at the picture. Can you tell who it was? Let's see what we have here. Well, is that a penguin's feet poking out of Helena's backpack? It sure is. Guess she did more than just fishing during her vacation. Yikes! 5th of December is Bloomfield Town's Contest Day. For this year, the mayor picked bakery as the theme, so contestants needed to bake the best dessert to win. The only rule was that the bakers couldn't use sugar in their recipes, only natural sweeteners. When the mayor went to judge the 4 finalists and pick the best dessert, he immediately disqualified one of the bakers, saying they had cheated. And he did that without even tasting the desserts. Take a look at the contestants and see if you can spot the cheater. Look at the third woman in the row. Her cake is literally covered in powdered sugar. She was disqualified because she broke the no sugar rule. Barbie was invited to take part in a famous game show. If she got all the answers correctly, she would win the prize of $1 million. For the first round, she needed to match the bird in the image with its correct shadow. Can you help her out? Yep, it's the 5th shadow. That's the correct one. For the second round, she needed to solve this rebus puzzle. Take a look at the image. Can you help Barbie figure out the next 2 letters? The answer was staring her right in the face, quite literally. The next 2 letters were A and W, which are the initial letters of the word and plus the word why. Next up, the game show host projected this image right in front of her. He asked her if she could find the hidden number in the image. Can you guess which number Barbie answered? Number 2. It was hidden right there in the middle. Since Barbie was getting everything right, the game show presenter decided to make the riddles more difficult. He asked her how many circles were in this image. Can you help her out here? This one was a little trickier, but there are 6 circles. Barbie was getting closer to the final round, so the host decided to make her life a bit more difficult. He picked a riddle that 90% of the people failed to know the answer to. Take a look at this image. The host asked Barbie to cut the main object in the image into 4 equal parts. How could Barbie do that? There it is. You just divide the big shape into smaller versions of itself. To win the final prize, the host came up with a riddle on the spot. He asked Barbie, "On my way to Berlin, I saw a man with 7 wives. Each wife had 7 sacks. Each sack had 7 cats. Each cat had 2 kittens. How many were going to Berlin?" Can you help Barbie figure out the answer to this riddle? Well, only one person was going to Berlin, the person who saw the whole thing. Way to go, Barbie. You just won $1 million. Dan opened a time portal and set free a group of mutant ants inside his lab. The 4 humans left in the lab needed to escape before the ants caught up. To do so, they needed to cross an old rope bridge hanging on top of a massive gorge. By Dan's calculations, the ants would catch up with the lab team in 17 minutes. They needed to get everyone across the bridge before that. Dan was the fastest one in the group. He could cross the bridge in 1 minute. The lab assistant, Becky, could cross it in 2, but the janitor and the professor were slower. The first needed 5 minutes and the second needed 10. How could they arrive at the other side safely, knowing that the bridge could only hold 2 people at a time and each group needed to carry the sole lantern left to illuminate the way? Here's how it works. Dan and Becky cross first, carrying the lantern. After 2 minutes, both of them are across the bridge and Dan, the quickest, runs back with the lantern. Then the professor and the janitor cross together, taking them 10 minutes. In total, 13 minutes have elapsed. Becky grabs the lantern from them and dashes across the bridge to help Dan get across. With 2 minutes left on the clock, Dan and Becky arrive safely on the other side, just in time to cut the rope and save their lives. Alice had an epic fight with her best friend Jen. They were supposed to go hiking together, but after the fight, Alice decided to go alone. After a long walk, she found a place to settle down for the night. She made all the provisions to have a safe camping night, but the next morning when she woke up, she saw that her food bag was empty. Someone had stolen all the food inside and only left the bag. Take a look at the image. Can you find out who the culprit was? Well, although there were animal footprints on the floor, none of these animals were big or tall enough to reach Alice's bag hanging on the tree. But hey, what's that? It looks like Jen's hairband. She must have followed Alice and decided to prank her by stealing her food. Peter got tired of big city life and moved to a quiet village. He opened a small coffee shop and his place soon got popular. His coffee shop was the talk of the town. Farmers, hipsters, and travelers came all over the region to drink his famous cappuccino. He even won an award for best coffee shop in the area. Until one night, someone broke into the coffee shop and stole his yearly supply of milk and coffee. Peter decided to investigate on his own and interrogated 4 suspects. Dylan, a painter, said he'd been out of the city that night. Leah, who worked at the coffee shop, said she had been working on a personal project all night long. Vanessa said she'd been rehearsing a dance for the upcoming New Year's presentation. And Jason, a farmer, said he'd been taking care of his cattle. Take a look at the suspects. Can you figure out who's the culprit? They sure didn't have the best alibis, but the culprit is definitely Vanessa. She said she was rehearsing for a New Year's show. But take a look at these flowers. It's clearly spring. For a school challenge, 100 students received a number between 1 and 100. Each student was instructed to go inside a classroom that had exactly 100 boxes, randomly numbered between 1 and 100. Inside each box there was a slip of paper, also containing a random number between 1 and 100. Now, each student needed to enter the classroom on their own and find the box that contained the slip of paper with the student's number on it. But to do so, the student was only allowed to open a maximum of 50 boxes. They were instructed to leave the room exactly as they found it, and they weren't allowed to communicate with any other students once they'd left the room. If all the students were able to find their numbers in the slips of papers inside the boxes, they would each win $100. But if even one of them wasn't able to find their number, then none of them would win the prize. Can you figure out what's the best strategy for all the students to find their numbers and win the prize? This riddle sure isn't obvious, but let's check out how it could work. If each student searched for their numbers randomly, they would each have a 50% chance of finding the box with their number inside. This is so because there were 100 boxes and they were allowed to look inside 50 of them. However, the probability of all of them finding their own number following this random strategy is absurdly small. So, to increase their chances of collectively finding their numbers, they would need a better strategy. The students could use something called the loop strategy. Once entering the classroom, they should go directly towards the box that had their number on top of it. The number inside probably wouldn't be their number, but that's okay. They should check the number inside the box and go look for the box with that same number on top of it, and so on and so forth. They should keep doing this until they find the slip with their number on it. This strategy means that 31% of the time, all students would be able to find their number and win the prize. It's not a huge probability, but hey, at least they'll have fun trying to figure all of this out.
Elsa was 17 years old the day before yesterday. Next year, she'll turn 20. How come? It's possible if the present day is January 1st, while Elsa's birthday is on the 31st of December. The day before yesterday, on December 30, she was still 17 years old. Yesterday, on the 31st of December, she turned 18. Thus, this year, Elsa turns 19 and next year 20. Elsa and her sister Helga explore an old attic in their parents' house. It's very dark and dirty. After that, they go downstairs to have some lunch. Helga's face is all covered with dust, while Elsa's face is super clean. But still, only Elsa goes to the bathroom to wash her face. Why? Elsa noticed that her sister's face was dirty, so she thought her face must be dirty too. As for Helga, she saw that Elsa's face was clean and assumed that her own face was clean too. After lunch, Elsa and Helga go for a walk across an enchanted forest. They reach the riverbank, but the bridge is closed for repairs. The sisters notice two dwarfs fishing in a boat near the bridge. They agree to help the sisters, but their boat is very tiny. It can fit either one sister or two dwarfs. Luckily, they manage to solve this issue. Elsa and Helga cross the river on the same boat. How? Well, first of all, one of the dwarfs brought his fellow on the opposite bank. Then he headed back for the sisters alone. Helga got into the boat and crossed the river. She gave the second dwarf the boat, and he returned to the opposite bank. He picked his fellow dwarf and brought him to Helga. Then one of the dwarfs swam to Elsa and passed the boat to her. She crossed the river and joined Helga, and finally, the second dwarf returned to his fellow. Helga and Elsa keep on walking and get lost in the forest. There are 3 roads to the nearest town. The first route is filled with mutant plants which feed on humans. The second path leads through an ice cave with a hungry dragon frozen inside a huge ice cube. The third route leads through a village of fairies. Their magic makes humans lose their minds. Which way is safe? Well, the dragon is trapped inside the ice cube, so it's not that dangerous. Finally, the sisters reach the town. They're walking down the main street. Suddenly, someone throws an orange right at Helga's head. Elsa identifies the apartment from which the fruit fell out and goes there to complain. She knocks, and a young man opens the door right away. Elsa explains that her sister was hit by an orange that fell from his window. But the guy says, "I was washing my dog when you knocked. Only me and my pet live here, so you confused the floors." But Elsa didn't believe him. Why? According to the man, he was bathing his only pet, but the dog's hair is dry. Therefore, his story is fake. Elsa and Helga enter the local home decor shop. Helga takes a picture of her sister standing in front of the mirror. Can you spot anything odd in this photo? Take a closer look at the mirror. Elsa's hands are reflected wrong, as well as the sale poster behind her. She must be a vampire. Just kidding. The sisters continue exploring the shop. But suddenly, Elsa begins to scream and runs away. That's because one of these ladies is not alive. Can you guess who? The first woman is an ordinary human. There's a mirror behind her. The third lady has a painting of herself in the background. And the second lady, who's looking over her shoulder, is a phantom.
Oh God.
Her reflection in the mirror doesn't match the reality. Elsa decides to hide in a building nearby. Surprise! It's a pet shop. Elsa wanders around it and spots one weird detail. Can you see it too? The turtle is wearing sunglasses. The locals tell Elsa and Helga about a creepy werewolf who has been scaring the citizens for several weeks. They only know that this werewolf is a lady and she has a husband. He's the only person who can calm her down. Elsa finds 3 suspects who might be the werewolf's husband, but none of them admits it. Can you find him? He's the second guy. There are suspicious brownish hairs on his clothes, although his own hair is blonde. The next day, Helga has a birthday party. Elsa goes to the bakery to purchase a cake for her. She's late, so she rushes over and bumps into a waiter. Elsa hits her head and forgets what cake Helga asked her to buy. She remembers just 3 things. It shouldn't have any green elements, the cake frosting shouldn't include more than one color, and it must have at least 1 berry. Can you help Elsa find the correct cake? Elsa should take the 4th cake. It's a chocolate cheesecake, so it doesn't have anything green. The glazing is brown and is decorated with cherries. A perfect match. Elsa buys the cake and leaves. The bakery is located inside the highest tower in town. Elsa enters the elevator to go down, but she hits the wrong button and finds herself on the roof. She decides to take some pictures with the iconic huge clock installed at the top of this tower. Oops! Elsa drops her phone from the roof. She decides to leave, but someone has already locked the door, and the elevator won't work. So she's trapped on the roof. Luckily, Elsa can still change the time of the clock. What time should Elsa set on the clock to make someone notice and rescue her? If she sets 5:05 on the clock, it'll look like an SOS signal. Finally, Elsa escapes from the tower and heads to the parking lot. Here's her car. Can you figure out the number of the place where it's parked? '87. Elsa arrives home. Helga shows her vacation photos sent by her new boyfriend, Kyle. In this case, you can see Kyle, his friend Bob, and a humanoid robot, Neo. Neo is standing next to Bob. A person wearing the yellow mask is not a man. What color is Kyle's mask? According to the terms, only the third guy can be Kyle, so his mask is blue. The birthday party is going well. It's almost midnight, so Elsa goes to the kitchen and adds candles on the birthday cake. Suddenly, she remembers that the only lighter in the house is upstairs in her room. She leaves the cake at the table for a minute. Then Elsa returns and sees the cake smashed all over the floor.
Oh no.
She questions 3 suspects. Lauren says, "I was in the living room all night. I don't know who did it." Wendy says, "I went outside to watch the full moon. It's so beautiful tonight." Kyle says, "I was shooting a TikTok dance with Helga." Who ruined the cake? Wendy. Take a look out the window. The moon is not full. Busted. The next morning, Helga wakes up earlier than Elsa and checks her feed. Breaking news: a legendary thief ran away from a nearby prison and now creeps around the town. He's a talented shapeshifter, so no one knows for sure what he might look like. Suddenly, Helga hears someone ringing on the door. She opens and faces two guys who introduce themselves. Bob is a gardener from a nearby park, and Peter is a garbage man. Both guys want to use a bathroom, so they ask Helga to let them in. But only one of them is safe to invite over. Can you guess who? Bob is wearing clothes with red stains, but he's also holding a brush, so he was probably just painting a fence. Let's take a closer look at Peter's facial hair. One mustache has come unglued. It's fake. So he must be the runaway criminal from the news.
You just entered a riddle solving competition. The game show host shows you the first riddle you have to answer. Take a look at the image. Who do you think will be able to make it all the way across the line? Let's face it, it's the man on the left. Even though it looks like he's having a hard time carrying such heavy things, the weight is evenly distributed between his two hands, so he'll probably make it through without any problem. For your next challenge, the game show host shows you a picture of sinking boats. Which boat do you think will sink first? The first boat has 2 holes in it, but somehow it has way less water inside. The second boat only has 1 hole, but look at the amount of water that got inside. It's definitely the second boat that's going to sink first. Since you passed the first 2 rounds, the third one gets a bit harder. Ken was riding on his rollerblades when he fell down and hurt his head. He woke up in the hospital only to find that 3 Barbies were waiting for him. Take a look at the image. Can you figure out which Barbie is actually Ken's girlfriend? This is a tricky one. It can't be the third Barbie, because the real Barbie would never wink at Ken. It's usually him that does the flirty things. It's also not the second Barbie, because she would never put makeup in front of him. So this leaves us the first Barbie, who must be his girlfriend. The Fin is a famous hostel in Spain. It's especially famous for its fun showers. But hey, something doesn't look right in this image. Take a look and try to guess what it is. The woman on the right is squeezing a ketchup bottle instead of a shampoo bottle. That's definitely weird, huh? For the final rounds, the host picked out a few written riddles for you. The first one is, I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. Am I a microphone, a phone, or an echo? What would you say? The answer is an echo. I'm not alive, but I can grow. I don't have lungs, but I need air. What am I? A tree, fire, or clouds? The correct answer is fire. Way to go if you chose that. Matthew works in the same company as Jean. He's had a crush on her for months and has been trying to impress her in any way he can think of. That's why he decided to take part in the Brain Challenge, a contest his company organizes once a year. By saying yes, he had to answer a bunch of expert-level questions and solve some pretty difficult riddles. For the first round, he had to crack a rebus puzzle. Take a look at the piece of paper they gave him. Can you guess the answer? The answer was invisible string. Nice! For the next round, they took Matthew to a room full of random stuff. His task was to find a specific object. As a clue, they gave him a piece of paper that said, "What goes up when the rain goes down?" Look around and help him find the object. It was that red and blue umbrella over there. For the final round, Matthew had to solve an AI riddle. If he answered it correctly, he would win the contest's main prize and probably Jean's heart. The riddle said, "I have 1,000 needles, but I do not sew. What am I?" Can you guess what he answered? The correct answer is a porcupine. Alfred is a supermodel, and he just landed his dream job. The biggest magazine in the country invited him to be on the cover of their latest issue. On the day of the photo shoot, he arrived early in the studio. After finishing with hair and makeup, he looked in the mirror and screamed, "Oh no!" His skin was all red. It looked like he was having some serious allergic rash. He called all the assistants he had seen earlier that day to interrogate them. Amy, the photographer's assistant, said she had been told Alfred was allergic to peanuts, so she made sure to only buy safe snacks. Bo, the makeup artist, said he hadn't touched Alfred's food. He said that right after he had finished his job, he left for a coffee break. Mary, the cleaning lady, said that she knew how sensitive models could be, so that's why she only used organic and hypoallergenic products to clean his dressing room. Alfred immediately knew who had contributed to his rash. Can you figure it out too? It was definitely Bo. Sure, he didn't have access to Alfred's food, but he was the only one who touched Alfred's face that day. Liv was recording a dance routine for her social media page when a huge portal opened up and swallowed her whole. The next thing she knew, she was stuck inside a big cavern. Out of the blue, a great genie appeared. He told her that she would only be allowed to leave if she figured a way out by herself. As soon as he disappeared, she saw that there were 3 buttons on the wall. There was a red, a yellow, and a green button. On the floor, there was a note that read, TDUPT RNOR EHEB She clicked one of the buttons and managed to open a hidden door on the wall. Can you guess which button she chose? The red button. She unscrambled the words on the note and discovered it read, "Press the red button." As soon as she pressed the button, Liv was transported into a virtual reality world. An artificial intelligence greeted her and showed her 3 doors. The AI told her that there was only one door that would lead her to freedom. It told her that behind the first door, there were hungry Pac-Men waiting for someone to walk inside. Behind the second door, there were cursed rollerblades. Once you put them on, you would never be able to take them off. Plus, they had a will of their own and ended up taking you to some pretty dark places. Behind the last door, there were flying fuzzy creatures with laser eyes that burn anything they came into contact with. Which door do you think Liv should choose to escape? Well, she should pick the second door because she wouldn't be obligated to put on the pair of rollerblades. She could walk past them and straight to her freedom. During the time she was gone, Liv noticed that someone had stolen her laptop. It had all of her social media content in it. She figured it must have been one of her roommates, so she decided to take a look around the house to try to find it. Take a look at these images. The first room belongs to Jill. The second one belongs to Rachel, and the third one belongs to Amy. Can you figure out who stole Liv's laptop? If you look closely, Rachel's cat is sleeping on top of something that really looks like a laptop. It must have been her. On a hot summer day, Marjorie decided to go to the public swimming pool. As soon as she arrived there, she ran into 3 close friends, Sarah, Raven, and Donna. One of these women just gave birth to triplets. Can you guess who? It was Donna. If you look closely at her wrist, she's wearing 3 DIY bracelets with the word Mom written on them. Sam was backpacking through Latin America when he stopped at a restaurant to get some lunch. When he walked inside, he immediately spotted something weird. One of the customers is definitely not human. Can you guess who? It's the guy on the counter. Look, he's charging his hand on the counter socket. He must be a robot or something.
Now, Carol was invited to a Halloween party in an abandoned house. Her friends asked if she was up for a challenge, and she said yes. Soon enough, she was locked inside a room. In this room, there was 1 door and 3 light switches next to it. Behind the door was an empty closet with nothing but a light bulb. Her task was to figure out which switch controls the light bulb inside the closet. She could flip the switches in whatever way she wanted, but once she opened the door, she couldn't touch the switches anymore. After some minutes of thinking, she was able to get it right. How did Carol do it? Okay, let's go step by step. She flipped switch number 1 and then waited a few minutes. She flipped it back to off and then immediately flipped switch number 2. Then she opened the door and checked the light. The bulb was off, so she discovered that it wasn't switch number 2 that controlled the light. So she decided to touch the bulb to test if it was hot or cold. If the bulb had been cold, that would have meant that switch number 3 controlled it. But the bulb was hot. So that meant that switch number 1 controlled 1. Way to go, Carol! To get back to the party, Carol had to solve another riddle. There were 2 hourglasses in front of her. One hourglass measures 7 minutes, and the other one measures 4 minutes. She needed to time 9 minutes using both hourglasses. How could she do it? First, she turned both hourglasses at the same time. By the time the 4-minute glass finished, there were still 3 minutes left on the other one. She flipped the 4-minute glass again. When the 7-minute glass was empty, there was 1 minute left on the other glass. And once the 4-minute glass emptied again, there was 1 minute's worth of sand at the bottom half of the 7-minute timer. She flipped it over again, so there was 1 minute worth of sand on the top of the glass. And when the 7-minute timer finally emptied again, 9 minutes elapsed in total. Now look at this party scene. Everyone is dancing in their Halloween costumes and having an enjoyable time. You've been told that one of these people is a real vampire. Can you figure out who it is? Let's see. The guy on the left is drinking something red, but he has a shadow, so he can't be a real vampire. The second lady looks creepy, could be her, but if you look closely at the mirror on the wall, you'll see her reflection, so it can't be her. And we can also see the reflection of the fourth guy in the mirror. This only leaves one lady left. She must be the real vampire. Anna sat down to watch her favorite TV show. She made some popcorn, turned on the TV, and nestled comfortably to binge-watch an entire season. Her cat Pepper sat down next to her, but after 5 minutes of screen time, Anna suddenly passed out. Look at the image. Can you guess what happened there? Anna's cat Pepper got scared with a loud thump that came from the TV. It jumped on top of Anna and it scared the life out of her. That's why she passed out. Brendan was camping alone in a remote location. He left his campsite and hiked 3 miles south. Then he turned east and hiked for another 3 miles. After that, he turned north and hiked for another 3 miles. After walking 9 miles, he was back to the exact same point from where he had left off. Plus, he got there just in time to find a bear trying to open his tent and steal his food. Look at the image. Can you guess the only place in the world where Brendan could be right now? It's the North Pole. That's the only place where you can hike for 3 miles south, east, and north and end up exactly where you left off. Fraser bought a cozy home in Vancouver. On a sunny day, he decided to take his dog out for a walk. When he let his dog off the leash, it ran extremely far away from him. At some point, the dog was opposite him across a huge lake. Fraser called his dog, who managed to cross safely to the other side of the lake without getting wet or using a boat. Can you guess how the dog managed to do it? Well, that's a trick question, but the dog could easily cross the lake since it was frozen. Your best friend invited you for brunch at a place called Wally's World. As soon as you arrive there, the hostess tells you that you need to solve a riddle to get inside. She tells us that there is only one rule at Wally's World. Over there is pizza with cheese, but no pizza with sausage. There is pepper, but no salt. There is a door, yet no entrance or exit. With this information, can you guess what the law is? Everything in Wally's World must contain double letters. So things such as pizza, pepper, and cheese are allowed inside. Whew! That sure wasn't obvious, huh? On a snowy winter afternoon, Dr. Brown was resting in front of the fireplace. Suddenly, somebody threw a snowball at his window. The hit was so strong that the glass shattered. Dr. Brown stood up just in time to see 3 neighborhood boys running away. They were brothers with the names John Smith, Mark Smith, and Dave Smith. The next day, a paper note was left on Dr. Brown's door. There it was written, a question mark, then Smith. He threw the snowball. Dr. Brown knew immediately which brother had done it. Can you figure it out too? It was Mark. You see, the note said, question mark Smith. He threw the snowball. But the boys were clever and put a question mark instead to test Dr. Brown's detective abilities. Henry was backpacking through Brazil by himself. One evening at around 8 p.m., he got very hungry and decided to look for a cozy restaurant to have some dinner. He walked into a traditional restaurant only to find a customer and a waiter arguing over something. The customer said that he had ordered clam soup, while the waiter was saying he had only ordered a cup of tea. Henry saw something that immediately showed him who was lying. Can you find out too? The customer is lying. Behind him, there's a huge sign that says the restaurant only serves soup from 1 to 4 p.m. Since it was 8 p.m. in the evening, the waiter would have never accepted the customer's order in the first place. Cheryl ran into her house extremely worried. I set off as soon as I heard the news, she told the police officer. I was at my parents' house in another town. What's happened to my husband? Well, the police said, somebody hurt Mr. Moffat, and he ended up in the hospital. He's going to be okay, but we still need to find out who did this to him. The police officer has questioned 3 suspects so far. Mr. Moffat's secretary said, I was sent to visit Mr. Moffat's business partner in the morning. Some important documents needed signatures. The cook said, I haven't left the kitchen today. Mr. Moffat wanted me to prepare a meal for him and his wife." The housekeeper said, "I didn't hear anything today. I was doing some household chores all day long. After that, I was so tired, I decided to take a nap." The police officer realized who the culprit was in no time. Can you figure out who did it? It was the cook. Mr. Moffat didn't ask him to cook anything for his wife, since she had been out of town all along.